Welcome back, everybody. Before I start this video, I just want to say huge prayers to everyone in Florida. Obviously, everyone probably knows that the hurricane came through. I am in Central Florida, but luckily, while the storm did hit us, pretty good. Somehow I made it through with power, which is insane for me. I feel like every hurricane in the past, I've pretty much my power has just been insanely weak and just goes out. But this one we somehow made it through, and obviously I consider myself that we got lucky, but the fact is other parts of Florida not so lucky, especially that west coast side. Hopefully everything is good over there if you are from there, and I'm assuming a lot of people who watch this are probably from Florida, so hopefully all of you guys are safe. And then along with the hurricane coming through, the Magic's preseason game on Friday was canceled, so obviously if you have tickets for that, don't go. And it's not gonna be rescheduled at all. It's just a canceled game, so Magic will be playing one less preseason game this year, which is fine. Obviously everyone's health and safety comes first. I know for me, at least where I'm at, getting to I-4 and getting that direction, it's kind of hard right now. There was a lot of sinkholes, and yeah, it was easily just the right decision from the NBA to completely cancel that game. Like I said, it's preseason. It's not the biggest deal in the world. Now, speaking of preseason, let's get into it, because the Orlando Magic have played 2 preseason games now, and we were able to see a little bit from the team. Obviously, players don't play every game, so there was a little more I would like to see. Some players, I'll get into that, but I will go over just what I've seen, the positives, the negatives, and what I think needs to be improved on. I'll start off with game 1. Now, game 1, I'm not gonna lie, it was I wasn't able to really lock in on it. I was sitting in an airport, the internet was not the best, and we obviously concerned about the storm because we were flying into Florida. I was able to get a pretty good glimpse of what I saw. Obviously we did see what should be our normal starting 5 going into this season. Jalen Suggs, KCP, Franz Wagner, Pablo Banchero, Wendell Carter Jr. And obviously it was preseason game 1, and there was obvious rust with the team, which is to be expected. So that's why I kind of wish we saw we were able to see a little bit more minutes, and especially yesterday's game we were able to see it a little bit more. But obviously Wendell Carter Jr. did go down with an injury, the ankle injury, nothing to be concerned about. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope sat yesterday, and along with Jonathan Isaac, and then obviously Wendell Carter Jr. Now, the one thing that does think about losing that preseason game, like I said, they were a little rusty together and they didn't play today, so I wish we were able to have another experience to get to see that starting 5 play together. Next Friday we do play our final game against the Sixers at home, so I don't know what the Sixers will be playing at that point yet, because it'll be the last game of preseason. Usually guys rest, but I do hope that we try to get one more kind of little first half run with the starting 5, just to get a little more tuned up. Obviously in that starting group, chemistry really shouldn't be the biggest issue. It's the exact same starting 5 from last season. Just insert Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for Gary Harris, and Gary Harris is a 2-time champion who's played on contenders for the past however many years. I'm sure he can probably plug and play right into that starting 5 and not have to really worry about chemistry that much. But in that game we did see our first real look at this new idea of a role for Jalen Suggs, taking on more of a facilitator, traditional point guard role with the team. And I'm gonna let's just be honest, it didn't look the best. Obviously the whole team was rusty. No one actually looked really that good. Obviously Paolo looked fine, but this was the first time we were able to see Jalen Suggs in the point guard duty, and there were definitely some kinks to be worked out, just from the turnovers, and just I think just overall how much touches other players got, specifically Franz Wagner, who really saw a drop off in his usage, which I think is an issue. I think that's something that needs to be addressed, and I think it was addressed. We'll get into the second game in a minute, but I'm really not too concerned with it yet. Keep in mind, obviously the whole thing this year was Jalen Suggs is our point guard. We're gonna try that, but that's not really the most insane thing, because last year Jalen Suggs was the starting point guard the entire year. So I don't think anything's gonna really change as much as people like to think when they hear the news of it. Obviously it did seem pretty obvious that in that first game that the goal there was to let him facilitate more, set up the plays, in which he was calling plays. You could see him running the plays, trying to get people where they need to be on the court, being a little more vocal than usual. But in the long run, at the end of the day, it's gonna be Franz Wagner and Pablo Banchero with the ball in their hands primarily. Really Paolo, he's probably the best playmaker on the team, and we know when it comes down to it, in the big moments at the end of a game, it's going to be Paolo with the ball in his hands. So obviously it would be nice if Jalen can develop some of that skill set along the way to kind of fill in the gaps when Paolo isn't on the court or who knows what. But it wasn't all negatives in that first game. Obviously, I'm not gonna say it's negatives. It's preseason game 1. Like, there is no positives or negatives really. It's just, you just see what you see and you go off of that, see how they grow throughout the preseason, and try to get, in game, in rhythm for, the first game of the actual season when it counts. But for me, the bright spots were definitely on the bench, and really it was pointed towards Anthony Black. I think he looked phenomenal in the first game. I think it looked like a completely different player. Like last year, Anthony Black was in a completely different role. He was almost being used as like a wing, like a 3-and-D wing, which shout out to him because the 3-ball has grown so much since the day we drafted him. It's insane. The shot, just everything has been like night and day. But this year, and we saw it in summer league, this year in preseason, when he came on the court, it was like we had an actual like point guard. He was the position he plays. He was taking the ball up the court. He was really aggressive getting to the rim, and he was setting up his teammates, which is everything we want to see from him. And it was very, very, very nice to see, because obviously in the offseason we did lose Markelle Fultz, and I know how people think about Markelle Fultz, but he was the most true traditional point guard we had on the team. Obviously he had his issues, and shout out to Markelle Fultz. Somehow he's not on an NBA roster yet. I'll always be a fan for Markelle. We took him in as a project player, and we actually grew him into something. So hopefully he gets his shot, one more time in the league and gets to really show himself on a different team. Hopefully maybe a contender, or either a team that he can really get a real true role in. But I feel like what we saw in that first preseason game from Anthony Black, it just took over the Markelle Fultz role. He was setting his teammates. He was really aggressive getting downhill, and overall his jump shot's just better. I would like to see him get to that pull-up mid-range a little more, because I think it's actually a good shot for him. Obviously he's a tall guard. He's like 6'7", I believe, so he's a taller point guard. The mid-range shots has seemed pretty good from when we have seen it. It's been a very small sample size. Mostly we've seen it in summer league games, and if we were dumping it off to the end of a shot clock for him, last season. But it was nice to see him not just be like a spot up shooter role, play defense on one end, go sit and wait for the ball on the other. Like, actually take down the ball, facilitate, run the offense, and it looked really good when he did it. And along with that, the second player that I really liked what I saw from was Goga Bitadze. And obviously we know what Goga is capable of. Like, pretty much what we have of Goga, like what you see of Goga is what it's going to be. But it's a really good player at the end of the day. It's a really good player. Last season when we, were very injury, heavy, Goga jumped into the starting lineup. We won 9 straight games. He was our starting center for a decent chunk of time, and he absolutely killed the role. And this year he just, small sample size, but he just looks better than that. He's, he does everything you want your starting center to do, or a starting center, backup center, whatever he's playing in, he's getting you good minutes on the court, and that's just all you can ask for. He's not really gonna, stretch the ball for you like Wendell does or even Mo does, but he does attempt some 3-pointers, but really, it'd be a better possession if we don't get Goga 3-pointers. What was it? Sacramento? Was it the Sacramento game last year where he took a crazy one and we ended up losing that game? But yeah, no. Other than that, like he sets good screens. He crashes the glass. He's a paint presence. He defends the rim very well. We're gonna get in the second game. We're gonna really talk about Goga because he did start the second game. And actually, let's just get into it right now. Yesterday, we played our second preseason game versus the San Antonio Spurs. It was actually the debut of Chris Paul and Wemby together as a duo for the first time. They didn't play. Neither of them played in the first preseason game for them. So it was cool to see it. Obviously, go Magic. I don't care about the Wemby hype. He's gonna be a great player, but we're here for Paolo, Franz, Jalen Suggs, and that's what we got yesterday. Once again, short stints from the guys, especially the starters. I was hoping, because the Spurs kind of ran their guys a little bit. They ran pretty much 3/4 worth of almost a regular rotation. I was hoping that yesterday we would see a little bit more run, because, at this point when they were playing the game, we already had the news that Friday was canceled. So I figured maybe the coach would kind of extend them a little bit to fill in for that time. But that was not the case, so better safe than sorry. But we did see some very, very, very bright spots in this game, I will say. The starting lineup this game, because Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Wendell Carter Jr. were out, it was Jalen Suggs, Jet Howard. Obviously, you guys know I love seeing Jet Howard on the court. Franz, Paolo, and Goga. And back to the point where I was talking about last game with, Jalen Suggs kind of taking on that more facilitator role and having a little bit of turnover issues. This game, he had 0 turnovers, but you could definitely tell that it was a little step back. It was a little like, okay, maybe let's just ease you into this a little bit, slower. We saw Paolo take on more ball handling responsibility in the time that, they were on the court together. And in that, 17 minutes of playtime, Paolo did have 7 assists. So obviously, it's just second hand for him. And if you're wondering why I'm not really going too crazy in on Franz and Paolo, is because, these are the stars of the team and it's preseason. So, they're not, I want to say cruise control, as in they're not trying, but I think they're just coasting through the games, getting, a rhythm in. They're not really, taking crazy shots or playing as a superstar. It's more of just feel it out games for them. Like I said, get into a rhythm, get your legs back under you. So it's not, I don't want to look into their games too much. It's more of the other guys, the Jalen Suggs, Anthony Black, Jet Howard, the guys who had room to grow, who have to step into a new role this season, a bigger role, and seeing how they respond to that. And this game was way better and cleaner than that first game was in terms of the offense. Things were running pretty smooth, and I'm not gonna say it's all on one player, but Jet Howard in that starting lineup with Jalen Suggs, Franz, and Paolo next to him looked great. Obviously, Goga, he knows how to step into that starting lineup, and it looked flawless. He's a great center for that. He's a really good Wemby defender too. But Jet Howard was the starter tonight for me. Led the team in scoring, knocked down a couple threes, was playing overall very good basketball on both ends of the floor. Really, defensively, which his main concern was the last season. Obviously, we didn't see much of him last season at all, but a lot of what we were talking about was he's got to just get better on defense, because this is a defense-oriented team. We can't just have someone who's clueless on that side of the ball. And he's talked about it a lot in the offseason, how that's what he was working on and getting better at, and especially in Osceola last season. And it showed, he was not by any means a liability on the end of the ball. Actually, at times, he seemed like a plus defender. 19 points, 3 assists, 2 steals for Jet Howard on 60% shooting. I mean, I don't know if he's going to get playtime this season. I think he's going to get an opportunity. I can't say that he'll be in the rotation opening night. The one reason I say that is because usually when Mosley has someone drop from the starting lineup, he doesn't bring up, the next man up. Like, he brings up the third stringer because he doesn't really want to mess with the bench rotation. So Jet Howard was brought up, and the bench was normal tonight. Gary Harris was out too. I don't think I mentioned that. So Gary Harris was out, so we saw Tristan da Silva step in that role, because we did not see much Tristan and Jet in the first game when they were in their normal rotation minutes, which I'm a little disappointed to not see either of the two. I wanted to see at least one, but last night with the players out, we did see both of them step into a role. I said Jet crushed it. Tristan da Silva also crushed it. I think Tristan da Silva is amazing. Obviously, I haven't talked about him yet on this channel, but I watched him in Summer League. He blew me away in Summer League. He looked incredible, and now in preseason it seemed like it's a seamless transition to him on his team. He just plays right. Like, he doesn't play for himself. He fits in. He's just plug and play. Great shooter too. He's a solid defender at a good size. Like, he's just the perfect role player for your team. And then once again, we saw some very bright spots from Anthony Black, which it really seems like now Anthony Black is the backup point guard for this team. No ifs, ands, or buts. Maybe even the 6th man, which is great. I love that for him, because I think he's a great talent, a great player, and I think he is going to be a fit for this team for a very long time. I've even already seen people saying that they want to see him as a starting point guard, which, let's calm down. Let's see, I shouldn't say that, because I think he could be the starting point guard for this team, especially down the line for sure. But right now, the direction is very obvious. They want Jalen Suggs and they want Kentavious Caldwell-Pope in the starting 5. They want to hunker down on defense. Now, obviously, Anthony Black is an amazing defender himself, but those guys, those are all defensive level defenders, 2 of them next to each other. That's what they want to do for this team. That is the plan, the direction that the front office has for this team. We are going to lock down on the perimeter on your teams. No easy buckets versus this team. But yeah, Anthony Black obviously is an amazing defender in himself. So it's definitely it's in the path for the future, in my opinion. I think for sure, if we ever were to, a spot was to free up in that starting lineup, I don't know who. Obviously the first replacement is Anthony Black for that spot. But yeah, once again, I mean, I think I said this exact same thing last year, and this year it's not only worse, it's way worse. I don't envy Jamal Mosley and his coaching staff because the rotations on this team are so hard to figure out. Like, there's so many players who need minutes, and it's a very it's a great issue to have, but it's an issue right now because from the looks of it, like, they want the bench to be Cole, Anthony Black, Gary Harris, Mo. I think one of Jet, Tristan Da Silva need play time. Who? How do we get one of them? How do we get both of them? It's not our jobs. That's up to the front office. That's up to the coaching staff to see how guys go. I do think I don't want to say Gary Harris is like my first candidate to get pushed out of this lineup, but I think one of Jet or Tristan Da Silva make it where you have to play them. I don't know if yesterday's game, like, we had to see more from Jet, but yesterday's game was a great step in that direction for him because next to that starting five, he looked great. Next to Paolo, Franz, Jalen Suggs, he looked like a great piece for them. Good amount of Paolo's assists yesterday were to Jet Howard, and it just seemed like the chemistry with them on the court was great. But yeah, I don't envy this coaching staff. There's tough decisions that need to be made. Obviously, consolidation trades is a talk around the team because how much talent there is on this roster and having to fit in everybody. And you know, we have some vets. I guess Gary Harris, Cole Anthony would be where I put the vet. I don't know if you'll put that tag on him yet, but he is an older player. They are a piece of this team right now. But is that next group, that would take their spot ready to step up now is the question. And obviously Cole, Cole's going in, I don't know what year he is in now, but he's been here for a minute. I don't know how I feel about Cole right now. I feel like it's been a couple seasons where we haven't really seen the improvement that we have to yet. And so far this preseason, he's looked meh. And with players like Anthony Black and Jet Howard, Tristan Da Silva stepping up now, like, is there a path where this is the end? This could be the end for Cole. I don't know. I don't really want to get into that conversation just yet. It's so early on. But I definitely do think there's got to be a time where these young guys, they get their they get what they earned. They get into the rotation and they are consistent contributors to this team. But it's like, it kind of reminded me of, like, remember when the Warriors had that young core that was really, that had a lot of potential, the Wiseman, I don't even remember, Wiseman, Kuminga, Moody. We're going to win with Steph, Clay, and Draymond. Then we're going to transition over to Moody, Kuminga, and Wiseman. Like, I feel like we're kind of in like that, but our Steph, Clay, and Draymond are 21, 22, and 23. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a weird situation. Like, we already have that next group lined up to contribute with the current group. And keep in mind, I don't know what we're going to do this, obviously at the deadline in the off season, but we do have a Denver 2025 first this season. Denver has taken some hits. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope is gone. Obviously, the West is demonic. All I'm saying is we could have some more talent coming our way. I don't know in what scenario, drafted, traded, but that pick by Denver does have some value. And I think we have a 2026 swap with Phoenix or Washington. I don't know. That's a whole weird one. That's got a lot of implications on it. But we do have some very valuable picks coming up in the future for this team. So the talent's only going to go up. And there's only 15 roster spots. Like, we have to, eventually something has to be done. I would say it's a sad reality of this thing, but at the same time, it's like we're doing it because we have more talent coming in. So it's not sad at all, really. It's just more of, emotional attachment to players, But yeah, that's been preseason. One more game to go. I did want to play back. I've been talking about playback a lot, and I've still haven't done it yet. Yesterday, I swear on everything, I have the file on my computer for the thumbnail I made for my first playback stream. I was gonna do it yesterday. I made the thumbnail. I went to go upload it because, like I said, I can co-stream it to YouTube at the same time. Internet went out for the first time. Went out for like 5 minutes. I thought I was done. I was getting the generator. We were getting the generator ready. And then it came back on. And then from there, it just kept going on and off all night. It was not going to be streamable at all. And I kept, a lot of the electronics turned off. My computer unplugged just because obviously, that's just not good for it. So we're going to have to find a different time. I want to do it with a Magic game, though. And now we don't play again until next Friday. It's a home game. I don't know what's going to be going on with that. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to just fire up and watch a random Bucks game. just to try it out, but maybe we just do it and I can delete the YouTube thing because it's gonna stay on my YouTube when it's done. But I promise, before the season starts, one way or another, I'm gonna run one as a test and just do it, and we'll figure it out because I had it all set up. It looked fine. I just, right when I was about to start going live on it, the hurricane came in and ruined the party. So yeah, we'll figure it out though. If you guys did enjoy the video, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. It feels great to be back. I'm looking forward to a great season, just for the Magic, for the channel, for everyone involved. It's gonna be fun. But on that note, until next time, I'll catch you guys later, and I'm out. Peace.